So without further ado, we're moving on to our teen panel called Teens in the Digital World, Habits, Strategies, and How They Address Their Own Mental Health, right? We don't just want to talk about teens, we actually want to hear directly from teens. Yes. You can clap to that, because I think that potentially is the problem sometimes. It's easy to talk and write about teens, but sometimes we might forget the actual important and integral perspective. So our moderator, our team moderator, is Nadia Jafari. She is a senior at Los Altos High School with a passion for youth mental health advocacy. She started the nonprofit Teens Talk after her own experience with aiding in the prevention of a close friend's suicide. Teens Talk focuses on education, open conversation, and youth empowerment to fight the stigma, as we've heard a lot of people say, around mental health. She also spearheaded Teens Talk's first annual Teen Wellness Conference in September 2017. So Nadia, please come on up. You're going to lead the show here for our teen panel. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same here. I'll give you this too, if you don't mind.
No, I think it's like that.
Oh, you got it? Okay. Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
I'm trying to see what the best spot might be.
I think it might be like right
Maybe
here.
Sure. I forgot. I didn't want to like it to be too
No,
intrusive there.
it's okay. Where? I'll sit here. Cool. Okay, cool. So I just want to say on behalf of young people, yeah. Do you want to come closer?
Yeah. Yeah, there's only 4 of us. You can just sit here.
Yeah. Okay, this is better. So yeah, thank you for including us young people in the conversation. I think this is going to be very interesting for everyone. So I'm just going to get right into it. The first question that we want to ask is, actually, let's do introductions. Yeah, good point. So you just heard my introduction. I'm Nadia. I'm a senior at Los Altos High School.
I'm Emma. I'm a sophomore at Gunn High School in Palo Alto.
I'm Tamak. I'm a senior at Palo.
And I'm Danny. I'm a senior at Gunn High School.
Awesome. So just going to jump right into it. The first question that we wanted to ask is, if your access to social media is revoked for a week, what do you feel you lose and what do you gain?
So one of the things that you lose when you lose your access to social media is that there's this whole online world that connects people that you may not be able to talk to as often or be connected to as much, and so there's this flow of ideas and support that you may have from an online community that you might not get as much if you lose it. At the same time, with things like like cyberbullying, social media can be used to harm people as well, and so it's a balance between the two.
I think it's like personally, one thing you gain if you don't use social media for a week is you gain a lot of time, because it does take up a lot of your life. And, not necessarily in a good or a bad way, but it is a time thing. But at the same time, at the end of the week, let's say like you're not allowed to be on social media for a week, at the end of the week, you still have to go back and catch up on all those things. It's like ignoring emails in your inbox. You're saving time for now, but it just piles up. It's almost like emails, yeah, like something you have to check on a daily basis kind of thing.
For me, I think it could be nice because the day would just slow down. You don't have to like focus on anything. You can have like time to just like be bored, I guess. And I guess social media is kind of like, if I don't want to do work, I'll be like, let me just check Facebook, let me just refresh like Twitter or something. But then there's none of that, so it's kind of like I'll be bored and maybe I'll do homework later. I think a negative would be I talk with my friends a lot over it. And so there's some stuff that I'll see and I'll be like, oh, let me share this with this person, let me message them, and that wouldn't be as easy.
Yeah, I'd like to build on something that you kind of all mentioned is when social media is not a part of our lives, which, that doesn't exist, but in a hypothetical situation, if we didn't have social media, like for me, my eyes are just open to the world around me. Like you observe things that maybe you didn't see before when you were playing on your phone, or, spending your time on social media. Like your eyes are opened up to the interactions that you're having in the present moment, and I think that's very valuable. At the same time, you guys also mentioned this. One thing, there's this sort of fear of missing out when we're not on social media. We feel like we're missing out. We want to see what's going on with our friends. We want to see what's going on in the world, and social media provides that for us. So that is something that we gain. We feel connected. We feel informed on what our friends are doing. So as everyone has said today, there are many pros and cons. So yeah, awesome. So the next question that we want to go into is, have you noticed a link between your use of social media and how you feel emotionally? Do you think social media contributes to suicidal feelings, cutting, or other forms of self-harm? If so, how?
I think that on days when I'm using social media a lot, those are also days when I don't feel as good. But I don't know if these two things, if the social media is the thing causing it, or if it's, like a bad day. And so as a result, I'm going on to social media, or if the two things are just happening at the same time. So there's obviously, I think to me, there's a connection, but I don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah, I think there are kind of two parts to social media. One where you're posting to the public, and another where you're kind of using it like to message friends and stuff. So in general, I think I use social media more for messaging purposes. So if I was feeling bad, like that is like a resource you have. Like if one of your friends is online, it's someone who you can talk to in a really easy way. Like, even if it's just like, I'm confused on this assignment, or like, I don't really feel that well right now. It's like a really easy resource. And I think for posting purposes, I don't post that much in general, but I think I would not post as much if I was feeling bad. And I think part of that is you don't necessarily want people, you wouldn't post that to everyone. It's more of a personal thing.
So I don't really use social media as something that I post very often for my personal use, really. I'll use it for like groups that have to do with school or other organizations and events and promoting things like that. But I don't use it to post my own content as much. But it is really nice that you can connect to people and have all these people that you can talk to that wouldn't be there if there wasn't the online world, right? Facebook has a messaging app. So even if you don't have their phone number, you still have a way of contacting them and getting support that you need from people that you might not have been able to without that. And so it is really nice for that.
Yeah, I think social media definitely can have an effect on how we feel. At least with young people in our social medias, I've noticed that we post, as everyone mentioned, we post when we're feeling good. We post good moments. We post good memories. And as a user of social media, going through your feed and just seeing, people smiling, like winning a sports game, an action shot, like posing on the beach, like, wow, these are all such perfect small moments in people's lives. But what we don't realize is that it's such a small sliver of the big picture of that person. Like, as people mentioned, we're not going to post about, like, oh my God, I have 12 hours of homework tonight. Let me post about that. Like, no, it's not going to be that exciting for your followers to see. Or if you have a panic attack and, you're not feeling so good, that's, again, not something you're going to post. So what we see on social media is already so filtered and such a small piece of the big picture that I think it makes it hard, like as a user, if you're not feeling so good and you see all these people looking like they're having a blast, it can bring you down, and I've definitely experienced that as well. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Also, I think on how social media relates to self-harm and suicidal thoughts and things, I think I don't think social media is causing self-harm and suicidal thoughts. I think it's just amplifying a lot of the things that are already there, because a lot of social media outlets, I guess, have basically anything out there that you want to see. So when you go through, so when you're on the internet or social media, whatever you want to see, you will see. And it just amplifies your feelings and makes them more intense than they were before. So I do think they can make, that social media can make issues like self-harm and things worse, but I don't think they're the main cause problem.
Kind of adding on to that, social media, like things like Facebook, when you scroll through your news feed and click on, say, a news article, if it has a particular skew, like liberal or conservative, the more you view those things, the more often it'll show you other content that is similar to that. So as you look at like liberal news media and other things like that, more often you'll see more and more of it. And the same goes for conservative. And so if you take that and you start to Dr. Abujad mentioned like how there are websites that do talk about suicide and like ways that you can die by suicide, and quote unquote foolproof ways to do that, right? So the more you see those things, the more often you will, and it escalates, kind of like a downward spiral, and so it's very, very hard to break that cycle, and that can be very detrimental.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Definitely. So moving on to the next question. Do you know someone who has died by suicide? If so, what was the reaction on social media? Did you find it helpful or harmful, comforting or anxiety producing? Explain.
Yes. It's, as Jonathan mentioned, the second suicide cluster in Palta was during my freshman and sophomore years, and then we had another student die by suicide at the very beginning of this year on the second day of school. And so, unfortunately, yes, I do. The response, for the most part, has been many of the same students posting on Facebook and Instagram that if you are suffering with mental illness and grieving, that you're not alone and that they're here to talk, and so that is very uplifting to see. It's not necessarily everyone, but some people will post publicly, some people will privately message their friends, and there have been networks of people that are students that they set up themselves, and they'll message each other to make sure everyone's safe. And so those kinds of things have been very, very welcome.
I think after my freshman year was when there was a suicide at Pali, I think, and like between Pali and Gun, people were changing their profile pictures to like a "we're all in this together." There are a lot of posts that you can reach out to me, you can reach out to me. I thought it was good, but it seemed to fade pretty quickly just because it's not in the news as much. That's kind of why I wish in schools we have a dedicated time sometimes, like an advisory where we have like small lessons on this and that. But I wish it'd be like more integrated. Like we can have like 10 minutes in math just like a check-in. Something like even when a teacher just asks you like how are you feeling, it's just kind of like you're kind of noticed a little bit more, and it's not just I think we're talking about like prevention and post-prevention. Like we don't have to react to it just after it happens. We can talk about it today, not like tomorrow. It doesn't have to be a once a week, once a month type thing.
I don't really know how well I can speak to this issue because I don't know anyone who's died by suicide. But I was at Gun. It was just at the beginning of this year when someone died by suicide. It was a senior at Gun, and I didn't know him, but I know in the aftermath of that, kind of the feelings that we all had it was really strange to me how some people were angry and some people like kind of felt pity, and some people like I feel like a lot of people who have mental health issues or like could relate to that just felt sad. Really kind of hard to, I don't know. Sad isn't a really good word.
Definitely. Yeah, those were all great responses. We're running short on time, so I'm just going to move on to the next question. So on social media, have you ever made a comment like, class was so boring today, I want to kill myself, or like KMS, or do you know people who make these comments, and how do you think these comments affect those who are truly struggling? How can comments like this send mixed messages and make it more difficult to give support to those who are truly struggling?
So I think one of the very large effects of that is that it kind of invalidates people that actually do feel that way when it's used as a lay term and part of people's vernacular speech. And so there are people talking about depression and being triggered and having thoughts of suicide, but they talk about it as if they're talking about the weather. It's not something that is always taken as seriously as it should be. And so some people, if you remind them, they will take that to heart and make a difference and sort of revise how they talk about issues like that in the future. And so with the CHC, the Teen Wellness Committee, one thing we did last year is we created a social media campaign that was meant to address that. It kind of provided certain words like triggered and depressed and depression and depressed that are often misused, and was meant to educate people about like what the actual word means. Like when you say this is what you really mean, and this is how you can affect people unintentionally by misusing them like this. And so there's, yes, people talk about it like that, but social media can also help, even if it is used or misused sometimes.
Yeah, I think we say like we use a lot of like medical psychological terms like in the wrong way, like I'm addicted to this, or like I'm so OCD about this. I don't think anyone means it in the wrong way. Like no one's trying to stigmatize something. So I just think spreading awareness, and then once people people say, oh, I'm so retarded, but then they don't realize how like derogatory that is. And then once you tell them like, oh yeah, I get it. So then I think it's just spreading awareness, and then once people start doing it, like everyone will start doing it. I think it's just like, the first person.
Well, I think I basically just agree with what you two have said. I don't really have much to add, but it is really normalized. Like people make jokes about like killing themselves like all the time, like at school. Like it's just a normal part of our everyday lives, which is like like you don't even really think about it after a while. You just kind of like, you know, oh yeah, that's just how it is. And when you think about it, you're like, wow, that's kind of messed up, like a lot.
Great. So we have 5 minutes left. We can definitely answer these questions at lunch or after this. But the question we wanted to end with is, what do you think social media networks can do to prevent teen suicide? I know it's a big question, but
Yeah.
what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on how social media networks can address this issue?
Well, some of the things that have been done already have been really, really great. Changing the narrative is as Jonathan mentioned before, it's a series of articles published by Gunn's newspaper. They're written by students and staff. So they're all personal stories of how they have struggled, but not focusing necessarily on their struggles, but on how they have overcome them and how they have found strength and hope and healing, and the process of going through that. And so by sharing all these very positive stories, it's been very helpful. It's nice to see that not everything is always awful all the time. And so things like that have been really helpful. The Speak Mindfully campaign that was done by the CHC was really great. I mean, maybe that's somewhat of a biased opinion, but it's I think for the people that it may have helped, it's really great because all it really needs to do is help one person, and that makes it worth it, right?
Yeah. Personally, I like seeing good news in my feed. It's not like I don't think it's a solution. Like, you're not gonna be like, oh, good news, like problem solved. But it's just kind of nice because most news, it's like something bad happened, you're bored, right? So then after, like, I think Hurricane Harvey does a video of like a dog being out of the owner or something. Just small things like that. It's like not gonna solve the problem, but it just kind of like you said, like, not everything's bad. Like, there are good people doing good things.
I don't know if this pertains to social media as much as just the media in general, but I feel like a lot of times people are trying to raise awareness about suicide and depression and anxiety and a lot of these different issues. A lot of times people can end up, not quite telling things right in a way that like kind of I don't know the word. Dramatizes. Yeah, like things like romanticizing suicide and making it into a love story or a drama is really not the way you want to go. But I feel like the one thing the media could do is, listen to people who have lived in experiences like, have gone through things, have overcome them, and take into the account the people that are actually being talked about here, because sometimes it can just be people who, really don't know exactly what they're talking about. I mean, almost always it's in good intent, but sometimes it helps to listen to those who have experienced.
Awesome. So I think we're gonna have to end there for time, but we got some really good questions from you guys, and I think we'd love to answer these now or at lunch. But thank you for listening. I think this conversation could definitely go on for hours or even days, but yeah, thank you.